Welcome back to the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I am Colin.
I'm Craig.
Yes, and we don't have Daniel with us this week, and we finally have Craig back after Craig missed out on our last two Wolfman discussions. And
Maybe me and Daniel are beefing, so we can't be in the same room together.
yeah, The Rock and Vin Diesel over here. We're gonna need like an audio double, someone that sounds like you to participate in these conversations when Daniel's here next week. You guys can't be in the same chat room, apparently.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But with all that being said, Craig, I know you weren't here last week, so you weren't in our discussion about Wolfman, which was directed by Lee Winnell, who directed The Invisible Man, which came out in 2020. And in our episode last week, we mentioned this movie a lot. I can't even say in passing because we mentioned it so much and we compared a lot to this movie. So what better way than to dedicate a whole episode to this movie? It came out right before the lockdowns, if I recall correctly, and I saw it, I think, online. I didn't see it in theaters. And I think, real quick, I did not see the original Invisible Man at all. I'd never read the book of The Invisible Man, so I can't even compare to its source material. So we're going to be talking about the movie as is. I mean, unless, Craig, you know anything about the source material? Or the
A
Universal
little.
movie?
I know a very basic plot. This guy like doused himself with chemicals to make himself invisible, and he kind of went crazy.
Okay. That's good enough for me. So, with all that being said, Craig, what did you think?
But
Oh, but what?
but he has the iconic look of you ever see how he's wrapped in
Yes,
bandages with the
yes.
glasses?
Well, I hope maybe when we're done talking about this, we could dedicate an episode to the original one. But with all that being said, though, Craig, what did you think of The Invisible Man 2020, directed by Lee Winnell?
I mean, I would say mixed, I guess, because I like the beginning more so, but the end kind of feels like a cartoon. It's a little loony.
Okay. I think it's good. We talked about it again in passing, where this is a last episode. This is a realistic take on the Invisible Man. Doing a realistic take on this is way more plausible than doing a realistic take on, a Wolfman who transforms and runs around and kills people. So there is no scientific guy who douses himself in an invisibility potion, like Craig said. It is a suit that is full of little cameras that can adapt to its surroundings, so you are, in essence, invisible. I don't know what's going on with my voice. I saw some people online say, Craig, that realistically, I guess this is like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of people who are like, well, actually, it'd be casting a shadow no matter what. I
It's a
think,
movie.
yeah, that stuff is not important at all. I think it works mostly, and again, when we compare it to the movie last week we did, what this movie's trying to say is very obvious, it's clear, it makes sense. So, Craig, what didn't you like about it? You said you liked how it started off. What
Well,
didn't you
I
like?
don't know which one to get into spoilers yet, but it's basically the
Well,
whole
the
ending.
movie's 5 years old.
I know, but you always mention spoilers. Be nice to our audience.
Okay, okay. There's gonna be spoilers after this.
It's just the ending. I think the ending goes it's a little cuckoo.
So I was looking online, and I was trying to see. I looked on their YouTube comments about the ending. So I guess let's just get to the ending. Or you know what? Maybe just give me a plot breakdown real quick. Now that you're finally back.
Oh God, you waiting for me to do this? And basically, this woman Cecilia's in a relationship or an abusive relationship with her boyfriend, who's this super rich guy. She leaves him, but he kills himself, or so we think. And then next thing you know, after she's trying to put her life back together, she's getting seemingly tortured by some ghost. But it's actually her ex-boyfriend in this Invisible Man suit, and he
Hmm.
manipulates her to try to get her back.
Yeah, manipulate, gaslight, every kind of form of
Wait, what does that word mean, gaslight?
any kind of form of mental and physical manipulation.
I don't think that's a real word.
But yeah, the guy's named Adrian Griffith or Griffin, and he initially, after she leaves, they say that he killed himself, and the brother is his younger brother is giving Cecilia is the main character's name, $5 million over 4 years with installments of $100,000 per month. Granted, she doesn't commit any crime. When she's at the house, that's when spooky things start to happen. Where it's like a ghost, but it's really just Adrian in a suit and the brother terrorizing her. Because then they find out that, or she finds out when they do a blood test when she. Well, I'm all over the place. I think one scene that was good was the restaurant scene where Cecilia goes to Adrian's house to find proof that something mischievous is going afoot. So she takes the suit, she finds it, she hides it in a closet somewhere, and then she tells her sister to meet her at a restaurant so she can tell her everything. And when she's there, Craig, she's talking to her sister, and as she's explaining everything to her sister, she sees a knife floating right by Cecilia's face, and throat gets cut, and then the knife. It's kind of it's a little silly that the knife like plops right into her hand, but the moment is shocking. Like I don't want to be laughing that this woman just dies, and then the knife gets put right into her hand.
Like I said, she seemed to grab it pretty easily. Maybe, I guess someone would throw a knife at me. My instinct wouldn't be to catch, it'd be to kind of dodge it. But
Well, Craig,
I'm just built different.
she was in shock. Yeah, yeah, you're just built different, I guess. But she was in shock that her throat was just flashed right in front of her. My God.
Yeah, in public
With dozens and dozens of witnesses. So one thing that I guess I don't like, and I know it's a movie, but the cops are kind of silly in this movie where they're telling Cecilia to like freeze, and then they just see their subordinates get beaten up and killed by an invisible force, and they're like, "Still freeze!" What is she doing? She's not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Again, it's a movie though. I'm not gonna hate it or dock down points for that, but it was just something that was a little silly.
see, I was gonna say, I feel like this movie, a lot of people reacted to her pretty normally. I mean, when the daughter got hit, of course you're gonna assume it was her, like it wasn't some ghost, obviously. I mean, what people reacted pretty normally.
Yeah, because again, they mentioned in passing that he is the leader in the optics field. So what he's doing is revolutionary. So it's not like you walk outside your door and you see people trying on their invisible suits and they're just invisible.
Yeah, everyone's got one, no big deal.
I guess also this is a nitpick. Does the suit make you stronger? Because
Well, that was part of my complaints. Like, it kind of got goofy at the end of the movie where this guy all of a sudden has super strength and is throwing all these people around and like slitting people's throats so easily.
yeah, it got a little schlocky, I guess you could say.
Yeah, because was at the house he picks her up with one arm.
Yeah, he thrashes her around with one arm essentially.
Do you have any idea how strong you have to be to do that with one arm?
Not stronger than The Rock.
Well, of course not. I mean, he's the strongest man alive.
But do you just want to talk about the ending then, real quick? What didn't you like about the ending? I'm just curious.
Well, it was sort of like that. Like, it gets a little goofy with him throwing people around. He gets all this super strength. Like, the whole point of the suit is to be stealthy, and it's like just enough to make you doubt yourself. Where it's like, did I do that, or like, who did that?
Yeah, like
Was it a
it's
ghost?
evil when she was going to that not conference, that interview for her job, and he like gets rid of all of her stuff in her portfolio, and she just has like a mental breakdown. Oh no, no, I lied. She did not have a mental breakdown. She was drugged. I
Well,
completely.
that too.
Yeah, that is a complete lie. I did watch the movie. Yeah, she was drugged. I forget what it was with, but it was some.
I think it's the same thing
Oh,
she drugged him with.
yeah, yeah. Well, it was the same container. It was diazepam. Yeah, some narcotic. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
Doesn't matter.
yeah, it doesn't matter. I'd be remiss of my duty, Craig, if we didn't mention that the was it Hawkman from Black Adam. He's in this movie.
Yes.
I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah, but most of the acting was fine.
He handled everything about as rational as a person could be because he's trying to believe his friend. There's this invisible force or whatever, but you can't on face value trust or believe her.
Oh yeah, because I mean, most people you say there's an invisible man stalking me. It's like, okay, time to put you in the psych ward. But this is a movie,
with
so it's
with a straight
plausible.
jacket. I think
Wait,
also what was good. Sorry, what were you gonna say? I didn't mean to interrupt.
wait, that was like along the point I said before. Like people seem to act rationally. He was not immediately jumping to conclusions, trying to see her way of things. But obviously, you can't believe her immediately.
I think also the Invisible Man is the perfect vehicle to have this kind of theme with like abuse and especially gaslighting because like imagine like the Invisible Man is perfect for gaslighting because no one's gonna believe you. He can't see this thing. It,
No one's ever going to believe you.
but I mean, it's perfect vehicle for that kind of stuff. Or what your movie's
I
trying to say?
disagree. I think the Wolfman is the perfect vehicle for domestic violence and abuse and gaslighting.
Oh well, I don't know how Wolfman's gonna gaslight you unless it looks like the Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox, because I think he can speak like coherently. So for the ending, what I was gonna say that isn't like I don't hate it for this, but conflicting messages, I guess, is she kills Adrian at the end. I don't want to say
Well,
in
hold
cold
on,
blood
hold on.
because he killed so many people. What were you about to say?
Well, I want to stop right there because you said she killed him, but you didn't specify that she put on the suit and slit his throat, making it look like
It
he
was
slit his own
suicide.
throat. Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about that because on one hand, I totally understand that she's free from him and that it was the only way, quote unquote, to be free of him. I can understand that, but the fact that she also gets her hands dirty, I don't know how I feel about it entirely, and I hope I'm articulating that because I understand she was a victim of abuse and psychological torture from this guy with an invisible suit. I get that. It's just the fact that she kills him so meticulously, so she is free of any like wrongdoing. I don't know. I don't know if I said that right or if it's coming off
I,
as right.
I get what you're saying. I mean, not to speak for you, but I know what you're trying to say. You're trying to be like, yeah, it's a bad situation, but it doesn't mean you have to go and, kill him. And
She essentially, in a way, stooped to his level, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't hate the movie for that. I was just didn't rub me the wrong way, but it was just something I was thinking of where I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how people are going to interpret what I said. It's not that, oh, well, what was she supposed to do? Just keep being a victim? Like, no, I'm not saying that at all.
yeah,
You know what I'm trying to say, right? I just don't like that
yeah.
she got her hands dirty, I guess you could say.
Well, because you're saying what message does it send? Just kill anybody who.
You're a survivor, and are you a survivor because you went through these experiences and you came out on top, a better person, or is it because you just killed this guy and you remove you're a problem remover, I guess you could say.
But part of it has to do with being a movie. I mean, obviously, maybe a man with invisible suit stalking you, you might have to kill him. I know what you're saying. Like, what's because obviously it's a movie, it's fantasy. What message does it send?
Yeah, and
Because
the cop also is not in cahoots, but he's like, "Yeah, it looks like a suicide to me."
it doesn't seem too happy with it. Obviously, he can read between the lines, but it's not something he's happy
Listen,
about.
obviously, Adrian Griffin is a terrible person in the movie. I'm not saying she killed an innocent man. I'm just saying I don't like how she stooped to his level.
Well, yeah, because like, well, yeah, what message does it send? Like, oh, just kill people who you think are abusing you. But
Well,
usually, the message of stories like supposed to be the better person.
I don't think she thought he was abusing her. He was
No, no,
entirely.
I'm saying like if you were to apply this to real life, like
Uh,
anybody who supposedly abuses you, just kill him. You give me that promotion.
you're abusing me verbally at work. Oh, dunzo.
I mean, again, I know it's a movie, but like the ending where she forces him to kill himself. It's like again, does the suit give people super strength? I thought it was
Yeah,
just an
she
invisible
holds
man
down
suit.
his left arm and she uses his right hand or right arm to slit his own throat.
Because I just feel like if for a movie where she has an invisible suit, I thought it could have been something more clever.
Maybe she could have been gaslighting him.
That or just something where you can exonerate yourself by not necessarily having to kill him or I think again they chose the worst option. She like overpowers him and kills him. It's like, all right.
Well, we forgot to mention that the brother was also in on it. I think maybe we mentioned in passing, but she kills the brother first because there's essentially the brother and Adrian are trying to get her to come back to them because they knew, or Adrian knew that she was taking birth control, and he either gave her some kind of placebo or he took it away entirely. I guess it's a placebo.
Like fake pills or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So she is pregnant, and then the brother says to her while she's in her psych ward that if you want out of this, if you want the money to give to your friend's daughter to go to fashion school or whatever, come back to him. She brings out Adrian, and then that's when it goes in that kind of schlocky scene where he's has this rampage of super
Yeah.
strength where he just kills a bunch of people. So then at that point, when Cecilia decides to go home to get, or not go home, but go to where, what is Cop Guy's name? James.
Cop guy.
I'm sorry. I watched this today and I forgot his name. She's gonna go home where James is, or no, she calls James to go home to protect Sydney, which was the daughter of James. And I guess at that point, unless it was the brother the whole time for that prison sequence, they must have swapped because then Adrian would have had to go home and shackle himself in his house because we later find out that after Adrian quote not quote unquote after Adrian pins everything on the brother because he gets killed, the police raid his house and they find him in the basement. Either it was the brother that was doing that attack in the psych ward, or they swapped and Adrian had to go all the way home and then shackle himself.
I like to believe that one because that one sounds funny. Like, oh, he had to drive home really fast, like shackle himself, and he like by the time she walks in the door, he just finished shackling himself.
Right, yeah. Like the police are knocking. He's like, "Oh God, let me just put this up here."
1 minute. Oh wait, sorry, not to the basement.
1 minute. Help! So the Invisible Man attacks James. Like he just beats him almost to death, and then Cecilia just shoots him to death, and they find out it's the brother. And thus that leads to the ending because Cecilia goes over there to really not get a confession, but just to have him tell her the truth one last time. And he says it was never him. I was locked. Yada yada yada. And then he says, what did he say? He said something like,
I
"I'm
forget.
the only one that knows you. It shouldn't be a surprise." And he said surprise 2 times prior in a text beforehand, and in the attic scene, I believe she said or he said surprise to her. Any dummy would know that's Adrian.
I don't know. I mean, like saying the word surprise. It's not like you're saying bazinga or something stupid.
Bazinga.
I mean, that's like when he's trying to spook somebody, you do say surprise. It's not like it's his trademarked word.
But in the movie, it makes
I
sense.
know it's him, but just like it's a very weird word to fixate on.
Yeah, I guess. But in the context of the movie, it works. It makes sense. And that's when she decides to run over to the bathroom, put on the suit, and just kill him.
They run right back in. Oh, what happened?
I mean, we're laughing, but it's kind of, I want to say evil because he did some evil, despicable things too. He killed her sister. He killed a lot of people. He was tormenting her, abusing her. But dare I say, is it a little satisfying when she just sees him struggling and then it's not even, she's like kind of smiling at him?
Colin, you've been in an abusive relationship?
I'm just saying. Again, it's like a mixed message with the ending because she's clearly reveling in it that she just killed him and she's looking down at him like an insect.
Maybe she wasn't so innocent.
No. What did you like about the movie? Because he kind of just talked about what we didn't like. What did you like?
Well, I liked, most of it up until the part where again he gets Schlocky, so like becomes super invisible man, beats up all the cops. Because again, it was like I don't know, it was like realistic. It was, again trying to be not spooky, but enough where like makes you think about what's going on. Like, oh, is it a ghost? Like we don't. I mean, obviously it's Invisible Man in the movie, but ignoring that context, you could think is she just imagining things like what's happening.
I
I don't
guess
know. It was just done very well with the Invisible Man like gaslighting her.
is this a nitpick, but wouldn't you be able to hear them walking around? It'd be kind of creepy if you just hear the Invisible Man breathing, like the, you know.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Maybe it's because of what we saw as kids, but I always think of like some guy on the telephone just breathing into the mic.
Wasn't that episode of SpongeBob with the blue jellyfish?
Oh yeah.
SpongeBob answers the phone and he's just him heavily breathing.
I mean, it must have been a thing back when landlines were still huge because the people who wrote that must have experienced that as kids and in kids shows.
God, that's horrifying.
Just, if someone calls your house and you hear heavy breathing, like off the line, perv.
I was just thinking about those pranks on YouTube years and years ago. I forget what YouTube channel it was, but this guy would do heavy breathing on Call of Duty lobbies.
That's different. I just think it's something out of shape. Like, I'm not...
Everyone was like, "Who is doing that? Who's breathing into their microphone?" But I guess maybe Lee Winnell's mind, if they had that, it would come across as unintentionally funny.
Oh yeah, they're doing that the whole movie. Like all you hear is like this. Like, you're like, where's that breathing coming from?
Yeah, I could see how that could ruin the tension. I do
Also, I
think.
mean,
Oh yeah, you go
movies
first.
have like this. What's it called? Like the audio. I forgot. Like ADR, like where the
The
audio like
ADR.
moves around the theater.
No, that's surround sound.
You're right. Right. I'm not the movie expert, but just imagine during the theater, you could hear like him breathing at the back of the theater. You hear like moving the
Yeah,
theater.
you're in your nice IMAX theater and you just hear that.
Imagine it's like a 4D theater. You could like actually have like the breath coming out of
Oh
like your chair.
God. It smells like nachos.
You're like burp too.
He burps and he blows it towards her, and then on the 4D screen you can hear that. You can smell that.
He burps with surprise.
Yeah, so I could see why they decided not to maybe have him breathe heavily. I think maybe in one scene, like there's no sound, and she's just looking around, and she hears the breathing a little bit.
Every
Obviously,
scene where he's like physically exerting himself, you hear some of the breathing. Like,
yeah, maybe don't have it be comically loud, like, but just a little like, yeah, if he's running around, he's a little out of breath. Can we talk about what an Olympian athlete this guy is? How in the beginning he was able to run down Cecilia right up until she got into the car,
I
and
don't know. I
he
mean, maybe that's
punches
what
he punches through the glass.
maybe this is what we're missing. Like people say, set up and payoff. That was the setup. Apparently, he is an Olympian. That's why he was able to do all that stuff and
The
beat up like
world's
10 cops.
world's strongest man,
Which also happens to be a rich CEO.
who's in number one in optics. But that wouldn't make any sense, Craig, because when she puts the suit on, she overpowers him. I guess you could say maybe that she caught him off guard, but we
Maybe she
saw
got
that
a shot of adrenaline like the
we saw
Batman.
this guy throw around cops. I don't
Or
know.
no, cops are like, paperweights anyway.
Yeah, that's true. What else did you like?
I mean, I know that's a very broad thing, but the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, it sets everything up pretty well. You understand what she's doing and why she's doing it. They
And
don't really need to explain too much. You can just visually see everything how it is.
yeah, like I said, it's for the most part well done. I just think the third act kind of falls off, but
I think the movie, I mean, we probably don't have to mention this, but it's a very good looking movie. It's shot well. The sound design's great. The only issue I have, Craig, is that I remember distinctly the commercials for this movie, and they gave away the jump scare of when she dumps paint when she's in the attic.
oh yeah, that's like the
That
one
was
thing I
in all
remember.
the trailers, and they ruined what could have been a potentially, I don't want to say scary, but a potential well executed jump scare. But I feel like anyone with a modicum of intelligence, if a movie's doing that, where they're getting a bucket and they're going to throw it down, there's obviously going to be something there.
See, that's why I kind of like that. I mean, that's smart, throw the bucket of paint, like he can't get that off and can't avoid it. It's gonna
Yeah,
stick to him.
he runs down to the sink and then washes it off. That's when he just like beats her up. Like he just grabs her. Did you see a clip of how they did that scene?
Oh, I saw it years
They
ago.
had a motion control camera, and for those of you who don't know what a motion control camera is, it's essentially a camera that you program so it can execute whatever kind of movements you want to do every single time perfectly. So I think they shot it maybe two or three times. One was a plate shot where there's no actors there, and then I think, or maybe they shot it twice, and then the second one was with a guy in a green suit, and I think there was wires all over Cecilia. So it just would be easier to digitally remove the green guy with the plate. It had a small budget, and you know what? The CGI looked really good. The suit looked convincing. It had a $7 million budget, Craig.
It gets impressive with these movies with small budgets, and you get like it was like some of the Marvel movies or DC, like these heavy CGI movies and look terrible. Like all the money goes to the CGI and the actors, and it comes out a mess. Oh, so that tons of reshoots, but
But we don't know. Maybe this had reshoots.
well, let's say like most movies have some reshoots, right? But like was it the new Captain America movie with the Falcon?
I
What, it's
can't
been
wait to talk about that movie.
we have to see it.
I can't wait, Craig.
Oh my God, because that has like what three reshoots? They reshot the
I
ending how
think
many
they're
times?
reshooting it in December,
I haven't been
maybe
following it. I
November.
just keep seeing like yeah, they're reshooting it constantly. Probably ballooned the budget.
Oh, 100%. Because I
It just
remember. Sorry, you
so
go.
not to talk about like just Marvel movies, but just more of the fact that like movies don't have to be bloated messes. They can be well done and well made.
Oh, 100%. Especially if you know what you're doing. Everything can be well executed. It can be on budget. I'm assuming Lee Winnell, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He storyboarded everything. And I think a lot of people who don't like who haven't had that professional experience on working on these things, like that stuff has to be meticulously planned. So you're not spending hours, days, weeks trying to figure out what you want. Because again, not to talk too much about Marvel, we'll get back to the Invisible Man, but the suits for Endgame, the time travel suits, they didn't have that design finalized at all. So that was entirely digital. And I think that's a problem Marvel has is that they don't finalize any kind of ideas they want. They more or less wing it and they shoot their movies in such odd ways where reshoot at any time and then try to like put it in there.
I've heard like it gives them flexibility in post production.
Yeah,
So
everything's on a blue screen, so they can get away with it.
yeah, so oh, you want to fight instead of Earth, it could be Titan. Oh well, just change the background. Hey, good. Bada bing, bada boom.
And that's why a lot of the lighting sometimes looks off because everything is just so lighted flat. So everything looks kind of weird. That's enough about Marvel. We'll talk about Marvel as the appropriate episode.
It's the perfect example of what not to do. So it's too easy for me because I'm not the movie buff. It's easy for me to bring up as to what not to do.
Yeah, like this movie, it looks great. It sounds great. They clearly knew what they wanted from the start. I think that's also an issue is that nobody knows what they want. Like the studios don't know what they want until they see what they don't want.
It's too late by then.
Yeah. And I'm glad that they didn't do a Universal Dark Universe. I'm glad that got canceled because like I think this works as a one-off kind of story. Again, I don't know what the theme of was of the original Invisible Man. I couldn't tell you. But this one works fine as like a horror movie. Like I can only imagine what the original plan for the Dark Universe was this guy a superhero or something. Because Tom Cruise, they set up Tom Cruise in the Mummy movie as some guardian, some mummy
It's an
guardian.
undead hero.
Yeah. So I can only
Yeah,
imagine what they had planned for the Invisible Man.
yeah. And Dr. Jekyll was Nick Fury.
Yeah, he brought everyone together.
It's not the same thing. Like again, we've said this before. Other people have said it. All these comic characters in Marvel DC, they all live in the same universe. These like horror old movies don't really exist in the same universe. It's not as easy to bring them together because it's not meant for a crossover. What was that movie? I know it's a comic, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. They do kind of bring these characters together, but it's also a comic, which is closer to a TV show than like a cinematic universe.
Yeah. Because I think they wanted to do like Dracula. I think they had the Bride of Frankenstein planned
Wasn't that before Frankenstein?
before Frankenstein, yeah. I don't know. But I'm glad they went this route, even though Daniel and I didn't like The Wolfman. I think it's better that they're doing these one-off anthology kind of films instead of just trying to tie it into some massive disaster universe. I think it works this way. It's cheaper, well, for one.
Well, cheaper just makes more sense. Like, not everything has to be a cinematic universe.
Yeah, I agree. I think what this movie set out to do, despite the little issues I have, I thought they did it pretty well. Everything in the movie makes sense. It's good.
I say now it's not a nitpick for me, but I really like the Invisible Man's original look,
Oh,
and
yeah.
this one, it's not bad, but part of me is just attached to the original. Like, I'll never be able to like this one ever as much as the original. Like, I just love the gauze over the guy's face and the
And the
glasses.
shades, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I do know is, and we could, maybe we could do an episode on the original one, is that he is the protagonist in his film, and the Invisible Man is not really in this movie a lot. It's not about him. It's about Cecilia. So I guess that big difference, I don't know, is interesting. Because all I know is that I read this Wikipedia page summary for the original Invisible Man, and he gets beaten to death at the end, I think. The townspeople just like beat him to death.
Well, 'cause I think he went crazy and was like trying to kill people.
Oh, really?
Again, I never read this story, so someone's gonna say, "Oh, you're wrong," but I'm not gonna read a novel just for our lowly podcast. But just remember, I read from past, and like he goes crazy, and I think yeah, they beat him to death.
Yeah, like the townspeople just, and I think because you have to be naked, obviously, at least in the context of the original ones. That's why he wears the clothes and he has like the gauze so people can see him. Yeah, I'm gonna save some of my thoughts for if we do an episode on that because the way they were able to do that one scene where he takes the wrappage off
Oh
and there's
God,
no
it's so
head.
cool.
Yeah, that's cool how they did that back then. But any final thoughts for The Invisible Man 2020, Craig?
Like I said, it's like I'm mixed because I don't really like the ending all that much, but the I guess first half, two-thirds of it, I did like. Like once she goes to the psych ward, just you can turn off the movie. That's how the movie ends. They find you're crazy, and
Adrian
um,
wins.
he
He
wins.
gaslights her into oblivion.
Not because that's the best ending, but because I don't like the ending of this movie. It goes a little crazy for me.
Right, right. I think I think it's good. Maybe not it's effective as it should be with its jump scares and whatnot, but you don't. That's not what the movie's about. It's about the domestic violence and bad, like terrible relationships. So I think it's an effectively made movie. So if you want to check it out, I would say check it out. I don't know what our episode's going to be next week, so we don't even know. So with all that being said, this has been the Unbiased Opinion, where everyone's opinion is biased except ours. I'm Colin.
I'm Craig.
and we will see you next week.
They're using that word again.